It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Have you ever seen some fancy looking recipes and think, oh my, I really could have a hard time creating that? Well, I'm going to show you one today that impressed me when a student of mine named Wesley brought it to my classroom for his birthday treats many years ago. And I remember going, oh my goodness, this is a very impressive dessert. How long did you and your mother have to spend making this for our group of students? And he said, oh no, Mrs. Beck, it's really quite simple. And then he shared his recipe with me. So we're going to make today Wesley's favorite pumpkin roll-up. Here are the ingredients we need for today's pumpkin roll-ups. We need 1 cup of sugar, 3/4 cup flour, half a can of pumpkin, 3 eggs, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then in a little bit, we will use some vanilla, sugar, and cream cheese to make a filling for our pumpkin roll-ups. I've already preheated my oven back here to 350 degrees. These pumpkin roll-ups will be a rather thin layer in our jelly roll pan. The jelly roll pan is different than a cookie sheet because it has the sides on it. That will be very important because this is like a little thin cake. And because it's thin, it does not have to take long in the oven to finish cooking. We are going to line our pan with some parchment paper. Wax paper would also work. I'm a huge fan of parchment paper though. I use it even when I'm baking cookies because they just come right off the pan so easily, and cleanup is great. I also love it if I'm cooking something that maybe has brown sugar in it or something like my roasted sweet potatoes. That would be difficult to get off the pan for cleanup. So parchment paper, a great little thing to have in your cupboard. All right, today we are just going to mix all of these ingredients together, and I'm actually going to start off with my eggs and whisk those a little bit just to break them up a bit. Oh, and that's exactly why I always break my eggs into a bowl. I dropped a little bit of shell into there, and it's a lot easier to get it out. Today wouldn't be such a big deal because I'm doing my eggs first, but if I drop that in with something else that's already been mixed together, I'm having to pick right through it. Okay, there are my 3 eggs. I'm just going to break those yolks up a little bit. I'm going to use my hand mixer today instead of my big KitchenAid mixer. Okay, eggs are somewhat beaten. And then we're going to add in our sugar and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking soda to help it rise a little bit, and 3/4 cup flour, and a half a can of pumpkin. Now I happen to be using today pumpkin that we grew from some little pie pumpkins in the garden, and I had it in the freezer, and that will work just fine as well, canned pumpkin or some fresh pumpkin. All right, I'm gonna turn this on slowly so it doesn't splatter everywhere. I'm gonna do a little more work with my parchment paper here. I could just pour the pumpkin mixture right on here, but if I kind of just bend that around the edges of the paper, I get a little bit of a crease. And I am gonna go ahead and trim this down and make it fit my jelly roll pan. See the outside very well, so I'm gonna recrease that a little bit. All right, we are ready to pour in the pumpkin mixture after we give it a little spray with some of this cooking spray. Okay, in goes our pumpkin mixture. And as I said, this is a very thin cake that we're making, a very thin layer of pumpkin cake. So we will spread this out into all the corners, and we are going to put it into our oven that has finished preheating. You always want to make sure the light is off in your oven, and I find with most recipes it usually is by the time I have finished mixing up my batter or my cookies or whatever it is that I am making. All right, I've got that into all the corners. And as I said, it's just a very, very thin cake. While our pumpkin cake is cooking, I am going to let my cream cheese and 2 tablespoons of butter soften on the countertop. Today I'm using the 3rd fat cream cheese, but you can use whichever one you want. We will also use 1 cup powdered sugar and 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla in our cream cheese filling for these pumpkin roll-ups. It has been 10 minutes and it's easy to see that my cake is not completely set up in the middle. So we will let this go for a few more minutes. 15 minutes should be the most it takes. I just removed our pumpkin cake from the oven. One trick to tell if it's done is when I put a toothpick in, it should come out clean, and it means that the cake has cooked through in the center. You always do that in the middle because that's the part that cooks the slowest. All right, I need to run a knife around the edge of this, just to be sure that it's loosened from the sides of my pan, because we're going to flip this out of here. Now, because of that parchment paper underneath, or your wax paper if that's what you use, that should make it a little easier to do this. I like to put down my pastry cloth, something I might use if I'm making a pie crust. And if I put a little powdered sugar on there, it just gives it a nice little touch. So I'm going to use my sifter just to put powdered sugar all around the middle of this. You can easily just sprinkle this with your hands or out of a spoon if you don't have a sifter. Now comes the part of flipping this. I take my 2 pot holders, and I want to be rather quick about this. Let's be sure I've got a good video going of this. There's a one-time chance to do this. I'm just going to flip it over and set it down. Okay, now that pan's probably a little hot since it just came out of the oven, but we'll lift right off of our cake. Next step, look at how this just peels away and we are left with our beautiful pumpkin cake. Now onto this, I am going to put a little more powdered sugar, and then we are going to roll it up to let it cool. This is important because we want to give it the shape of a roll-up, but we do not want to put our powdered sugar filling on there yet. I can't stress enough that your cake needs to be completely cooked through. If it's too soft, this will fail. You can just make bars, but I'm going to roll, roll, roll. Mine's a little on the soft side there, but I think it'll be all right when we're done. Okay, now it's going to sit and cool in this position, and then we're going to frost it with that cream cheese filling where we've got our cream cheese and butter over here sitting and getting nice and soft so they'll mix together well. While the pumpkin roll-up is cooling, it's a good time to get your filling made. So we've got 1 brick or 8 ounces of cream cheese. We have 2 tablespoons of softened butter, 1 cup of powdered sugar, and we're going to add to that 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. This would be the basic recipe of any kind of cream cheese frosting that you might use on banana bars. I recently posted a banana bar recipe, or a pumpkin bar. Zucchini bars would be another way to use this. We're just going to beat this all together until it's nice and smooth. We're getting there. Let's clean off those beaters a little bit so we can save all of that gooey cream cheese goodness. All right, let's unroll this, and I do have a little cracking, but I think we can still just hide that as we make this dessert. All right, on to here goes all my cream cheese. Again, I really want it to be well cooled, or the cream cheese will just lift the pieces of cake up and not spread very well. I want to carefully work it out to all of my edges so that the entire cake is covered in cream cheese. All right, the final step is to roll this up. I think I'm going to roll from the same direction I rolled before, just because that's the way it was cooling, and I think it'll keep it better in one piece. I have a little bit of cracking here, but it's going to be just fine. Okay, I don't really want to pick that up yet. I'm going to turn it sideways here so that I'm ready to cut this in the crossways manner. So I'm just going to cut through the end. And again, I said the end, you know, might not look as pretty on this side, but it looks nice and pretty on this side. So all you do is cut, oh, maybe like 3/4 of an inch circles, and you make this nice little pinwheel effect with your pumpkin roll up. Let's give it a taste. It's delicious. Great fall dessert with that pumpkin. Definitely has an impressive look to it. Looks way more complicated than it really is. And if you're looking for other recipes to impress, maybe check out my corn candy cookies, my raspberry ribbon pie, and my bacon wrapped chicken breast stuffed with spinach. All available on my YouTube channel. And remember, subscribe to Time to Cook with Susan Beck. And roll it around. And it's not working very well. It's breaking. I've never failed at making this. But of course today I did. Well, you know, if it fails, it still tastes great. Just frost it and eat it as pumpkin bars.